Look around you. Your cell phone, your clothes, the car that passes on the street, the buildings that make up the city. All of this only exists because more than 2 centuries ago, an event changed the course of history forever: the Industrial Revolution. But few people really stop to think about the profound impact it had and still has on our lives. Before her, everything was done by hand, with time-consuming processes, limited production, and restricted access to goods and services. But then suddenly, machines took the place of manual labor. Cities grew at a rapid pace, and humanity entered an era of unprecedented innovation. The Industrial Revolution was not just a series of mechanical inventions. It was a watershed moment that redefined the way we live, earn, and relate to each other. What began as an advance in textile production quickly expanded into transportation, communication, and science, paving the way for a world powered by factories, locomotives, and electricity. But this change had no consequences. Along with progress came gigantic challenges such as exploitation of child labor, unsanitary conditions, and growing social inequality. But how did it all start? What made this transformation happen? What led humanity to move away from artisanal production and into the frenetic pace of machines? And most importantly, is this revolution over, or are we living in a new era of technological transformation as impactful as that one? If you think the Industrial Revolution was just an event of the past, expect to discover how it is still shaping the world we live in today. And this is just the introduction of this great transformation. The Industrial Revolution was driven by extended minds like James Watt, who perfected the steam engine, and Henry Ford, which revolutionized production with the assembly line. But this story goes far beyond factories and machines. It has shaped the modern world in ways you might not even imagine. If you want to understand how this revolution has impacted our lives and whether we are really living in a new era of technological change, already written on the channel. In the next few minutes, we'll explore the inventions that gave rise to the world's birth and reveal how these advances begin influencing our society to this day. You won't want to miss this journey. Before the Industrial Revolution, life was completely different. The production of goods was carried out in an artisanal, that is, everything was done by hand, piece by piece, in a slow and laborious process. If someone wanted new clothes, for example, they would depend on the work of a tailor who cut and sewed the fabric manually. If you need a piece of furniture, it would take a carpenter days or even weeks to build something unique. Each product was the result of an artisan's individual skill, which made everything more expensive and limited. This economy based on manual labor, it had a big problem. It couldn't keep up with population growth and demand for goods. With the population increasing, there is a need to produce more, faster, and at a lower cost. But how to do this without sacrificing quality? Furthermore, people still depend on rural work, with many families living in small agricultural communities, planting and harvesting for their own subsistence. Trade existed, but it was restricted, and transport was precarious, making access to goods time-consuming and expensive. The slow pace of manufacturing also meant that innovations took time to spread. If a shoemaker invented a new model of shoe, for example, it would take years for that style to become accessible to more people, as each pair was produced by hand. There were no factories, there were no machines that could automate production, and wealth was equipped with equipment in the hands of a few merchants and nobles. But that was about to change. The need for a solution to these problems led to the emergence of the first industrial machines. The invention of the steam engine, the improvement of mechanical tiers, and the introduction of new energy sources changed everything. Manual labor began to be replaced by mechanized processes, factories emerged, and large-scale production began to take shape. But how did these innovations actually happen? Who were responsible for transforming the world economy and leading humanity into a new era? Leave our comments. Could you live in a world where everything was made by hand, without factories, and without mass production? An industrial revolution. It would not have happened without great inventions that completely transformed production, transportation, and communication. And among all the innovations of that time, one of them was responsible for the contribution of all the others, the steam engine. When James Watt perfected this technology in the 18th century, he not only created a new source of energy, but ushered in an era of mechanization that would change the world. Before that, production depended exclusively on human power, animals, or rivers to move rudimentary gears. But the steam engine brought something revolutionary: constant and controllable energy. This meant that factories could operate without depending on weather conditions, increasing production and costs. The steam engine was soon reserved by industries, becoming the heart of mechanical tiers, mills, and other machines that replaced manual labor and led to mass production. It was precisely in textile industry that this transformation began. The fabric sector was essential in the economy at the time, but it still depended on artisanal processes. With the arrival of mechanical looms and from hydraulics, clothing production has become faster and more affordable. Before, buying a piece of clothing was something expensive, reserved only for those who had money. With the new factories, fabrics began to be manufactured on a large scale, reducing prices and allowing more people to have access to better and more varied clothes. This created a new dynamic in the consumer market, where products began to be manufactured not only to meet basic needs, but to stimulate the desire to purchase on a large scale, something we still see in the modern world. But it wasn't just the factories that changed. The steam engine also revolutionized transport, giving rise to the first railways. Previously, traveling from one city to another could take days or even weeks, depending on horse-drawn carriages or boats that depended on the wind. With the steam trains, the distance between places is significantly. Markets began to be transported quickly, boosting trade and connecting regions that were previously isolated. This caused cities to grow, new markets to emerge, and global trade to expand in ways never seen before. And it doesn't stop there. Another essential invention that emerged during this period was the telegraph. Before him, communication was slow and depended on letters or messengers that took days to deliver simple information. But with the telegraph, messages began to be sent almost instantly, revolutionizing the way the world connected. Governments could communicate quickly, deals could be done over long distances, and people realized that technology not only sped up production, but also shortened time and distances. Over time, the electricity also began to gain ground, paving the way for a new wave of innovations. Electric lighting replaced oil lamps, factories began to operate even more efficiently, and cities began to become true industrial centers. The sum of these inventions shaped the modern world as we know it, giving rise to what we today call globalization. But these changes also brought challenges. The growth developed in cities, the exploitation of workers and environmental impacts generated the emergency as consequences of this advance. Now tell me, which of these inventions do you think have had the biggest impact on our lives to date? Leave your comment. In the next section, we will better understand how all these transformations affected society, both positively and negatively. With the advancement of machines and large-scale production, Industrial Revolution not only changed the way products were manufactured, but also completely transformed society. Previously, most people lived in the countryside, working in agriculture or in small local offices. But as factories exploded, millions of workers migrated to cities in search of jobs. This accelerated growth led to the emergence of large urban centers, where working-class neighborhoods began to form around industries. Cities that were once small towns have turned into industrial metropolises, and with this, people's way of life was significantly changed. This rural exodus brought the rise of working class, a new social group that depends on factories to survive. But if, on the one hand, industrial employment offered a source of income, on the other, working conditions were extremely precarious. Conferences of 14 to 16 hours a day, without labor rights, without security, and with very little changes were the reality for the majority of workers. Many worked in closed and unhealthy environments where constant contact with smoke, chemicals, and intense noise generated serious health problems. Furthermore, a growing need for cheap labor led to one of the cruelest chapters of this period: the child labor. Children aged 5 and 6 were forced to work in factories and coal mines, often in dangerous tasks, as their small hands were able to reach places where adults could not. Without education and without prospects, these children spend their entire childhood working to help support their families. This shocking scenario only began to change when the first labor laws emerged, but until then, thousands of children were exploited and sacrificed in the name of progress. But the Industrial Revolution didn't just impact the worker, she redefined the global economy. Previously, each country only produced what it could manufacture locally, relying on manual methods and limited production. With machines and railway transport, products began to be produced in long scale and shipped to different parts of the world. This began what we now call market economy, where countries began to depend on each other to obtain raw materials and sell their products. International trade grew like never before, and the concept of an interconnected world began to take shape. But this accelerated growth also brought one of the biggest challenges we have faced to date: pollution. With factories burning coal unchecked, rivers being contaminated by industrial waste, and cities covered in toxic smoke, the environmental effects of the Industrial Revolution were devastating. This model of extractive production and exploitation of natural resources created a pattern that we follow to this day, where economic growth is often accompanied by environmental manipulation. Now the big question is worth it? Does technological and economic progress justify the social and environmental impacts that the Industrial Revolution brought? And most importantly, will we repeat the same mistakes in the modern world? Leave your comment. And in the next episode, we'll explore a new perspective. Are we living in a new industrial revolution? Are artificial intelligence and automation about to change the world in the same way? If this story has captivated you so far, you won't want to miss what comes next. The Industrial Revolution. It was a turning point, but was it really in the past? If we stop to think, we are experiencing such radical changes in terms of options at that time. Before, machines replaced manual labor and forever changed the way we produce goods and consume resources. Now, we are seeing a new revolution, where artificial intelligence, automation, and digital advances, they are transforming entire industries. The big question is, are we in the midst of a new industrial revolution? The transition from mechanical industry for the digital age, it is already happening before our eyes. Machines that were once operated for the sake of being operated now operate in an automated, reducing costs and increasing efficiency. Robots, they already replace workers in factories. Drones make deliveries, and artificial intelligence systems make decisions that were previously exclusive to humans. Just as the Industrial Revolution created new professions and eliminated others, this new advance is also restructuring the job market. Traditional professions may disappear, while new technological areas emerge every day. If before the steam engine was a key part of industrialization, today the big data, quantum computing, and advanced robotics are shaping the future. Companies that do not adapt to new technologies fall behind, in the same way that the arts lost space to factories in the 19th century. But will this technological revolution only bring benefits? As has happened in the past, the transition could increase inequalities, cause large-scale unemployment, and even create ethical challenges in the use of artificial intelligence. Now, I want to know your opinion. Do you think we are living in a new industrial revolution? How is technology already impacting your life? Comment below. And if you want to continue this journey and understand how the steam engine was the heart of the first industrial revolution, get ready for the next episode. This invention changed everything and laid the foundation for the modern world. Leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss this story.